Save 4, save 2, save to speak. Speak words. Whose words? What words? Words of wisdom, words of power, words of life. Yeah, yeah, words of life. Words to live by, give by, live up to. Words to propel lives to do the will of Yah. He saved you. He saved you, saved you, saved I, saved us by dying for us, dying instead of us, dying instead, dying in our position, dying in our place, dying that we would live in peace, extending His grace, giving us space to know we're saved. Saved from the grave's hold on victory. Now we see and now we decree and believe we have power to declare and power to dare the enemy to stand in the face of God's army. 'Cause we are saved, saved to save another. What does this mean? This save? Who has the power and who would want the job? One who knows Him, knows the investment, knows the words, spoken with authority and spoken with power and spoken with creativity and spoken to create, because we're saved even before salvation was known, even before salvation was needed. He saved. Saved by His power divine, saved, new life sublime. Now life is sweet and my joy is complete, 'cause I'm saved, saved. He saved that. He saved them that did not know they needed to be saved. They were not even born. They were only a thought. They were one man. They were one rib, not to eat, but that would help man meet his potential. A rib that would form protection for the heart and lungs until He would bring Adam into his fulfillment. And even then He saved a portion of Himself to save a rib to a womb that would house the Creator that created the womb. He saved a portion of Himself to die to save a nation, save a portion of a nation, save a nation that would accept being saved, a nation that would be willing to listen to a word, to listen to the word, listen to the word as He speaks kingdom commands, as the word lands on their hearts, a word propelled from the voice of Yah. Yah speaks and Yah commands and Yah loves the man. He listens to the word, His son, His land to save. He saved and He is still saving with His word today. I'm saved. Saved by His power divine, saved, new life sublime. Now life is sweet and my joy is complete. Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. Okay, this light is going to work my pressure, but good evening. And welcome to Monday Mornings with Monday Mornings. Maybe I need to be doing something in the morning. Welcome to Monday Moments with Martina Mitchell. I am excited about this show. Now listen, I know we're supposed to be doing part 3 of overcoming insecurity, but tonight I have some amazing guests for you. Let me tone that down. Yeah, warm is better. I have some amazing people with me on tonight, and tonight we're going to have a conversation across generations. So this is what I need you to do. If you are on Facebook or you are on Instagram, I need you right now to go ahead, like, share. If you haven't been over to our YouTube page, go on over to it, Martina L. Mitchell, and like, share, make sure to follow and ring that bell so you get notifications of when we are live or have new content on there. You're going to enjoy tonight. It's going to be a real and a raw conversation, but none of us are wearing our feelings on our sleeve. We understand that in order for us to be able to fix some things, we really have to have some conversations. And sometimes those conversations are hard conversations. Sometimes those conversations are uncomfortable conversations. But how do we move ahead? How do we do the things that we're supposed to do in the kingdom of God when we can't even communicate with one another? And so it's a big job for us on tonight. But we're going to communicate across conversation, across generations, and we are taking it head on because all of the people that have been chosen to be a part of this conversation articulate thoughts, feelings, their generations well. There have been people that I've had numerous conversations with. And so you definitely want to be a part of this. Go on, make sure that if you're in and you want us to acknowledge you, that you come on in and say something. So we are super hyped that you are here. Hey, Lady J, good to see you on tonight. Twin, Lean is on. Y'all call her Charlene or call her Char. Do not do the Lean thing. And I wanted to get you in no trouble. Let me see who else. Charlene, I'm glad you liking the music. You know, that's Mom's CD. Let's see who else is on. Jacqueline, hey, how are you? Good evening to you, love. Autumn, hello. Charmaine, hello. How you doing, Mom G? Delinda Green, how are you? It's good to have you on. Tierra Smith, hello. Siri, I didn't ask you anything. See, modern technology is something else. But listen, some of your posts will go on tonight. So don't say anything you don't want to be in this video because it's gonna be locked in. Hey, Dr. Patty, all the way from Florida. How are you doing? Kia J, Renee, God bless you. I'm loving y'all tonight. All right, so I'm ready to get this conversation started. But don't forget, like, share, and comment. Like, share, comment. You can love it and comment. All right. But I want you to share it out because we need all generations getting into this conversation. I see you, Justin. How are you? And so we are excited about it. My first person that I wanted to introduce to you is none other than this amazing individual right here, Nakia Oshai. She is amazing. Listen, this is Jen. Let me see. Let me stick to what I said I was going to do. Here we go. I got you covered. There you go. I got you covered. How you doing tonight, woman of God?
I am doing well. As I have my AirPods in, I want to make sure that my earrings are not getting in the way. So, are you hearing any feedback when me clicking?
No.
Wonderful.
But good looking out because now you can help the others that may be on. If you're coming into the conversation via phone, you may want to have your earphones in, and so that way we don't get any feedback from what's going on behind you. But thank you for being a part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm excited and nervous at the same time.
Well, look, first of all, what I don't appreciate is his face. How you want to have your face beat to the gods and not tell nobody? Like, we didn't get the memo. So I'm coming here all regular, degular and whatnot, and I clearly missed the memo. Or was you gonna catch me slipping again? This is one and done.
Normally when I'm doing Monday Moments with Martina Mitchell, that's the only time
that I'm beating my face, and I haven't done it for the last 2 weeks only because we were overcoming insecurity. So my bad. I should have said be your full, but I'm used to you being your full self, with or without.
I mean, it's the red lip for me.
I just got a little confident to be wearing red lips.
Trust me, I understand. I just started wearing red lip this year. So, but it's the red lip for me. Okay.
Come on, red lips. Come on. Listen, so I'm excited. Nakia Shine is an apostle. She's also an elder in her church, but more amazingly, she's a dynamic woman. She has already retired from the U.S. Armed Services. She's just doing her thing, and I'm just so excited. Tell us a little bit about you that you might want us to know.
Let's see. What do people need to know about me? So, I am an ordained elder. I am an author. I am an entrepreneur. I am retired military. So my hashtag retired and got time is legitimately I am retired and I legit have time. So I am that one that if you come for me, I'm going to respond in kind. Okay. I may have to repent later, but that's okay.
So it's the reciprocal that I'm loving on tonight.
Right, I'm just saying, I believe in reciprocity. Whatever energy you come to me with, is something you might get that in return. I believe in responding in kind. I am merciful. I am graceful, but howsomever.
So listen,
howsomever. So, but no, that is me in a nutshell. As you can see, I love I just love life. I love people. I am an advocate for the LGBTQ community. Yes, I'm an elder. Yes, I am ordained. Yes, I'm an affirmed apostle. And yes, you'll catch these hands saying something crazy about the LGBT plus community. Okay, all right, okay. So that's me in a nutshell.
Let me just say this for all of you that may not understand. Let me break it down. If you from the school area, if you got an IEP, she into accommodations. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, because I'm here for you. I am here for you. I am here for you. However you want me to respond. I mean, it can be in love, or it can be, the kingdom did suffer violence, and I just think with a loaded Sig 365 next to my bed. So
I am loving it, and I love the fact that you really made that very plain that you are an elder, ordained elder in the church, and you stick up for the LGBT community. And I love that because I really feel like if we are, but we're gonna get into that. I was gonna go somewhere. Listen. Let me bring on some of these other folk. How about that? Who we got right here? We got. Come on. We got the good apostle. Now let's see what she representing. Them good millennials.
It's the green eyes for me. You know what? I don't like. You know what? I don't trust none of y'all. Let me mute my line and turn my camera off. I'll be back.
Okay. We got you. Wait, but I don't think everybody coming with the full beat on tonight, so don't even worry about it.
But listen, I'm the memo, so you always gotta come beat. I'm the memo.
She the memo.
This is gonna be. I'm the memo. I love you.
Millennials. It's the millennials. They always the problem.
Who do we think we are?
Listen, Shar, thank you so much for coming and being a part of this conversation and contributing so much to it. I really feel like this is a conversation that the body of Christ has kind of overlooked as well. Although we say that we want to become better and we want to be better and we want to do better, sometimes I feel like we don't want to take on the hard conversations. So thank you. Or also, Shar is an apostle in the faith, and she is also one of my armor bearers. She is training all of the armor bearers, and she is a published author as well. And tell us some more about you, Shar.
Oh man, so I'm a published author. I am a publisher. I'm CEO of Shar Phelps International, CEO of Shar Phelps Global. Charlene will kill me if I didn't say this. I'm a twin because Charlene's watching. And I don't know. I guess that's it for now. I'll come out in the conversation.
Listen, trust, believe, and know. All right. So while we on millennials, let's just go ahead and grab our other millennial.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
This is Blair. This is Blair, the Mrs. Blair. And so we are excited that you're coming into the conversation as well, Blair. We are appreciative of you. You and I started this conversation. That was last year. It's been a year. We started this conversation, but it was kind of between baby boomer and just millennials. And so I felt like we were leaving out some folk in the conversation. So it was necessary for us to have this conversation. Now, there's a lot of things about Blair that she probably can share with us, but one of the things that I love about Blair is she kind of another Nakia Shy. Like, she got time.
Always.
I have to tell her a lot.
It's the
bring that back.
It's the Peter spirit. It's the Peter spirit.
It's a Peter spirit. Listen,
yeah, that's
I'm
what
like,
I consider it. It's a Peter spirit.
When we in the church,
and cut your ear off.
Yeah, but I have to tell her a lot, baby. If you cut the ear off, the people that really need to hear the word of God ain't gonna hear it, and so you got to leave the ear on.
No, because see, listen. We're here to cut the ear off. And it's whoever else's responsibility to reattach it.
I'll reattach it.
By way of Holy Ghost or Holy Hand. However you want that thing reattached.
I feel all of that.
That's what it is. And, if Jesus, all I'm saying is we just want to be like Jesus. Jesus kicked Peter. Jesus knew who Peter was. Peter didn't hide who he was. Jesus knew that Peter had a little fizzle about him. When we talk about building, we talk about building an apostolic team. We always talk about, the different personalities and be on your apostolic team. And if you don't have a Peter, are you really apostolic? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm gonna have to receive that.
I am here for all of that.
So Blair, I'm gonna need you to turn your volume up just a little bit if you can, or maybe put your headset on that has a speaker.
Is it better now?
Much better.
Closer?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's much better. And so one of the things I love about you, one is that you speak your mind, and the other thing that I love about you is that you have the clothing situation. So come on, tell us about it.
So I do organization called the Olive Branch Center, where we take donated clothes and we give them to families, people in poverty or in need, anyone that has suffered from a fire, displacement of any kind. We're able to provide them with clothing to set them on a new path, just as a fresh start, as best as we can. And then I also have the t-shirt line that has a soft launch so far, but definitely getting ready to come out in the next month or so in a big way. So I'm actually sitting in my new office right now that the Lord has been able to bless me with in such a great way. So I'm able to come meet with you guys from my office. So we are doing the Black-owned business thing very hard and very well, while never forgetting about giving back in our heart posture in the same sentence.
Yes. I love that. And I know you're going to be talking about that heart posture on tonight, because that's her staple, heart posture.
Yes.
So this conversation would not be great, would not be complete. Well, there's some older people, because there's baby boomer 1, because I'm actually baby boomers 2. I didn't even realize that was such a big generation that they split it into 2 till I started studying it. And so I'm from baby boomer 2, and we don't have a baby boomer 1 on purpose. I just don't have the energy tonight. Maybe to the next conversation, because that's a whole different personality that we would be inviting to this discussion. And we want to kind of set the mode and set the premise for how these conversations in the future will go. And so, but I have to bring on this next person who's going to be representing, no, I didn't mean to hit that. It's going to be representing the next generation, which is Gen X. Come on in.
Christian.
This is Christian.
I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z, I got you represented on the thing. Yes. Not only is Christian Gen Z, Christian is my number 4th grandchild. He is, so I'm going to say a little bit, because I don't want to embarrass him, but he's a biomed major. He goes to Susquehanna University. I love having conversations with him. He has been prophesying accurately since he was 2 years old. They happen in a matter of days when he says things, and sometimes the same day. So he's just been a very accurate prophet that we don't have around a bunch of prophets. God is just kind of taking him on this journey on his own. And so we're excited that he's going to be a part of this conversation because he articulates well. But Christian, tell us some things that you would want us to know about you.
Well, I'm actually currently at school. I'm an SCA this year, so I work a lot with residence life. Yeah, I'm a biomed major. I'm going towards veterinary school right now, and I'm in my senior year of college.
Awesome. And he's another one that tells it like it is, but he does it with so much love. So it's kind of evened out because him and Shar are going to give it to you the love side while they give you truth. And then the other two just going to be like, no, some of y'all hard heads need this. Here it go. And let that resonate. And when it needs to resonate, we're going to pick up our tea. We're going to pick up our drinks and we're going to take a drink because we're going to let it marinate for a few. How about that? All right. So I'm really excited. And I don't know if y'all know, but the comments are coming in on tonight. Coming in. I do want to give a shout out to Apostle Sheldon Hudson. How are you this evening, Mom? I love you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Look at her. She's just a fanatically beautiful, amazing, anointed individual. And I got time if you say different. All right. So listen, we are excited to start this conversation. And you're in South Carolina. Well, we're going to pray for you that you have a good time while you're in South Carolina. And we got people that say, hey, Christian, I'm so glad y'all are welcoming Gen Z to this conversation. But don't by any means think that he is a slouch by any means. Wait a minute. Is my apostle on tonight? Apostle Aaron J. Mobley? Come on, Apostle Mobley. Loving it. I see one of the spiritual grandsons is on here. Oh, he said he got to go on a 109-day fast for his spiritual mama on tonight. Listen, just pray for us on tonight, Chris. We just going to make sure that we can hold on to ourselves while she is going forth. All right. So you can continue to drop your comments in on tonight, but I want to get to our first question. So I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to ask this virtual room, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think your generation brings to the table? And what table are we talking about? We're talking about the table of this conversation. We're talking about the table of this dispensation that we're in. We're talking about this table of the kingdom work that we should be doing. And we're also talking about the table of the church. And we know that, and let me be real clear on tonight, we sometimes say I'm not a part of the church, I'm a part of the kingdom. Jesus died for the church. All right. And as 3 apostles on here, we're married to her. And so in essence of all of that, we're not going to batter Jesus's bride. However, there are people that are proclaiming him that aren't living like him. And so that table is what we're setting on tonight, because we as a body of Christ got to get on the same page. And if you think we're on the same page, you're going to find out tonight we are drastically not. And we have to be the correction of that. And so we're going to correct that starting tonight. And so let me see, who should we do? What generation should we go first with? Let me just start with myself. Baby boomers too. I really don't feel like a baby boomer. I feel like I'm a Gen Xer because I'm born the last year of the baby boomers. So, but because I'm a baby boomer, I get the right to say what I got to say. All right. And so as a baby boomer, one of the things I think that we bring to the table is a lot of controversy. I know y'all weren't ready for me to say that. I believe that my generation brings a lot of controversy to the table because we have this mindset that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it happens in my house, don't tell nobody on the outside. Yeah, those are my main two. But the other thing that we do bring to the table is experience. We bring a lot of wisdom. If you give it the right ones, we bring a lot of wisdom. We bring a lot of experience to the table. And I think that that's important because we need wisdom and we need somebody to be able to say, well, this is where we have been. Now, I'm not one of those baby boomers that say it's my way or the highway, because at any point, any of us can be wrong. But my generation more feels like nobody younger than them should be telling them what to do. And my generation also feels like you just sit there, be quiet, and learn from me. And so we're going to talk about that's going to be a part of that conversation on tonight. Because we are older does not always make us right. And we bring good stuff to the table. But while we are setting the plate on the table, we bring a lot of nonsense with it too. For example, let me give you an analogy. You bring the plate to the table. You bring the napkin to the table. You bring the fork, the knife, the spoon to the table. But then you start bringing leaves from outside that shouldn't be on the table. And so we're going to talk about some fig leaves on tonight. But that's my generation, the baby boomers. Let me see. We might as well just go on down the line. Come on here, Generation X.
Hey. So Gen X, I have a couple of things that we bring, but the first thing we bring is frustration. Gen X we consider ourselves the bridge between baby boomers 1 and 2 and everyone that comes after us. And the reason why I say we're the bridge because we were raised by baby boomers in essence, but we are raising millennials and Gen Z in a sense. So a lot of millennials are grandparents right now, and when you have the next generation after Gen Z come in and all those other things. So we bring a level of frustration. And the reason why I say that is because millennials have watched Gen Xers be abused and used up their giftings, used by the church. And when I say church, so here come the teachers coming out. I just want to clarify something. You have the institution of the church, then you have the body. So a lot of us have been abused by the institution because we individually make up the body. And so when we say the church, a lot of times we're talking about the institution of the church and not necessarily Christ himself. Not and I wanted this to be clear. I want to make sure, because for me, language is everything. And so for the purposes of this conversation, if we're not talking about the institution, let's be clear and say we're talking about a particular situation. So that way we're not laying blame at places in places that we shouldn't have. There's no assumption because language is everything. So Gen Xers, we serve as the bridge. We're the ones that the Gen Z and millennials come to complain to. And then we also have to hear from the baby boomers, the complaints of the baby boomers about the millennials. And what also frustrates Gen Xers is like, look, you blame the millennials for things, it's actually Gen Z, but you keep saying it's millennials. And so baby boomers don't even understand what generation they're talking about. So we're listening to all of that. So we bring in a level of frustration because we're frustrated, and some of us are jealous. We're envious of how, especially Gen Z, who are not about that life. They're not playing. It's just a different level with Gen Z. And a lot of Gen Xers wish they had the freedom of expression and the outlet that Gen Z has. So you have Gen Xers. We bring a level of frustration. We are a bridge or a sounding board for Gen Z and millennials, but there's also sometimes a level of envy because we were the generation that, because baby boomers told us we couldn't wear red lipstick. So we have a lot of bondage that we are coming out of. But because we're coming out of it, we're also redefining a lot of things. So you're seeing Gen Xers started to live life in their 40s in a way to let people know 40 is not the end of life. But we're finally finding that freedom because Gen Z kicked the door open for us to say, you know what, we're not doing that. And so now Gen X is a little bit more malleable than some of our baby boomers. And I'm going to leave it there.
So, we're going to come back to that, right? I'm taking notes. We're going to come back to it because I think all of this, and I've already realized because I'm watching the time, this is going to have to be a part 2 because, oh my God. All right. So, but these things are important. Laying this groundwork is very, very important. Okay. Shar, come through for us for the millennials first.
So first, I'm going to say I didn't even know that there was a generation in between the millennials and the baby boomers until I was talking to you last night, Mom. However, millennials, I feel we bring a great level of flexibility. because in my experience, especially dealing with the institution, Christianity is this or that. But as I'm living life, I'm finding that it's this and that. And so even though our level of flexibility makes baby boomers very uncomfortable because they feel like it's not this and that, it's not all encompassing, it's what we say it is. And so I believe that, and I'm just gonna, that's a whole situation in and of itself. But we bring a great deal of flexibility. We millennials, we know that God, he loves everyone, and I know baby boomers do too, but we treat everyone as if God loves them. We're not excluding a group of people. We're not excluding whoever you are for whatever you are. We include, and we're flexible in that way, especially when it comes to living this life. For real, we're really about this life. And there's just a level of flexibility that I feel like we bring, and the understanding that we understand from the baby boomers' perspective, that there's power there, there's wisdom there, but over here we're still living this life, and it's different now. It's not what, and I can't even say what I seen growing up because I didn't see much church growing up. But coming up for the last 13 years, I've seen the power that has come from the baby boomer generation. And now, even from last night, thinking back on Gen X and everyone who's in that generation, I've seen the knowledge, and we'll probably touch that later or maybe tonight. But so I've been tracking it throughout the generations, but we have this flexibility and understanding, and then strength. And then I'm gonna just stop right there.
Okay, awesome. So I just want to say really, really quick, guys. I'm gonna stop for a minute because a lot of people don't really know where they are. I have some people think you're telling me I don't know where I am. So let me just run through it really, really quick. Baby boomers is from 1955 to 1964. So if you're between 57 and 66, you're a baby boomers too. Because there's baby boomers 1 and baby boomers 2, and baby boomers 2 isn't on here. And if somebody can type that in, that would be great. Baby boomers 2 is 1955 to 1964. Gen X begins at 1965 and they go all the way to 1980. So if you're between the ages of 41 and 57, you are a Gen Xer. And I know there's a lot of Gen Xers that don't want to be known as the X. Don't be crossing us out. Don't be canceling us out. We're going to help you tonight. You can take some pride in the generation that you were born in. So Gen X is 1965 to 1980. Millennials, 1981 to 1996. 1981 to 1996. You're between the ages of 25 and 40. 40 is the cutoff. All right. Because there's a lot of people in the church I'm talking to that are 42 and be like, I'm a millennium. No, ma'am, no ham, no turkey. You are a Gen Xer. Millennials are 25 to 40 in this year of 2021. In case somebody comes back the next year to watch this. And Gen Xers are 1997. Gen Z, I'm sorry. Gen Z is 1997 to 2012. 1997 to 2012. From the ages of 9 to 24. That's big. Ages 9 to 24 are the Gen Zers. And so anything that's born after that are Gen Alpha. All right. So just wanted to bring us up to speed so you know where you fit in before you start talking trash in these comments. Because guess what? I'm going to post them. Because I'm just petty like that. All right. So how about Blair, take us to the other part of the millennials and what you think you guys bring to the table.
I actually want to even piggyback off of Shar. Like, I completely agree. I feel like I like to say sometimes that we're the generation of both. We are Jesus and therapy. There is no one or the other. We do both. We go to church on Sunday and we meet with our therapist during the week. They help us get to Sunday to get to church. We are the generation of both. And Nikia, right? I want her name right, Nikia. I just want to I actually thought that millennials were a bridge to an extent. So where I felt like we were a bridge because we, in the sense, had both as well. We grew up playing on the playground, but we also got cell phones at like 12 and 13. So we had the playground experience, the play outside, jump rope, ride your bike experience, but we also had MySpace. We still had social media as children. So I feel like we are able to relate on levels to multiple generations. If we are allowed to, in a sense, if people listen and hear, I feel like people see one side of us and they're like, oh, you guys are rebellious. You guys are rebellious. I don't think we're rebellious. I think we're a fresh wind. We are wow, we saw Gen X, like you said, get treated really crazy by the institution, and we no longer want the institution. So here we are, and here is the kingdom, and here we can ready to do church completely different. Not that we're always right in that, but we kind of saw the left side, and some of us even went too far right, but we went right and we wanted the opposite. And watching our parents be Gen Xers or maybe even younger baby boomers, but it was a lot for us. So it was sometimes we are definitely the generation of both, and I think we are a fresh wind in the church and a good change when mentored appropriately.
Okay. Can somebody write that note down for me? When mentored correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost scared to hear what Z gonna say about the baby boomers, but come on through, Christian.
Okay, so I would definitely think that my generation probably brings to the table unfiltered perspectives specifically, and highlighting that unfiltered part, because a lot of my generation doesn't know how to like hold back or not to say certain things that might hurt someone's point of view or like ego, so to say. And then also normalization, because I heard that like for millennials, like therapy and everything like that is something that they do. But I also think for my generation, because most of the people I know in college, outside of college, for people at home, they all go to therapy, and it was before like their parents or anything like that even kind of thought to. We kind of normalized that, especially because my generation does have a good amount of, I want to say, trauma in certain aspects of life, which is not really talked about, I feel like, when it gets to older generations. We don't really seem to acknowledge trauma, except for like my generation does that quite a lot, actually. But I think that's what we kind of bring to the table: normalization and then unfiltered perspective.
I guess I got to be off mute to say, I like that. I like that. Say that again, Christian.
That we bring to the table unfiltered perspective and normalization.
I like that. Okay, unfiltered perspective and normalization. And so this is great, because I wanted to start here because I wanted each of us to understand that we each, every last one of us, brings something to the table. And so when we realize that we bring something to the table, as we begin to talk this conversation out, when we realize that each person brings something to the table, you have to appreciate each generation for what they bring. Now we can talk about the cultural differences, because it is a cultural differences because we're born in different generations. So the culture kind of changes each time. There's more things that each generation is hit with. There's things that Gen Z is hit with that I was never hit with as a kid. There's things that Gen X was hit with that I was never hit with as a kid, or the way that they even think. as a kid, when I was a kid. And so these things are important because for me, I need to hear, and I think that every generation needs to hear, one, what do you bring to the table? That's good. But what's the problem in between the generations? Why is there such why is there even this need for a bridge? Because if we were flowing continuously, I think this would be much better. I think it would go I think we would have less problems. And so I'm going to move into our next question, and I think that this is going to answer a lot of things for us. And let me tell you, I premised this question because I can remember conversations between me and my daughter, well, any of my girls, because I have 3 girls, but I was closest to my youngest and my middle girl. And the youngest because she was home longer, the middle girl because we did everything together. And so I thought we had these amazing relationships that always over time would have breaches. And the breaches were never fixed. And so, those things begin to erode even more. And so I think this is a conversation because I'm finding that talking to some of my friends who are baby boomers are having issues with their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And so we have to figure out what the breakdown is. Now, let me say this to all of the baby boomers, whether you baby boomer 1, baby boomer 2. If you before baby boomers, holla at your girl, you during wartime, because I'm just happy that you're still alive. All right? I want to celebrate you that you're still on this earth. But baby boomers 1, baby boomers 2, I'm going to need you to go get you some tea. This is not the time for you to have your feelings hurt. These are things that we need to hear so that we can self-correct, because you won't introspectively look at yourself if you don't have an issue before you that says, oh, this is how I think I am, but this is not how the other generations see me. And I got to listen to how the other generations see me, because if you hear it in more than one generation, more than likely it's true. And so we need to do some self-examination so we can do some self-correction. So, who we want to start with? You want to start up top or you want to start down bottom? Let's start up top. Come on, Gen X. Let's hear from you, Nikia.
So I wanted to go back to the previous question for a hot second. And I wanted to, because it was very key to me after everybody spoke. One of the reasons why Gen X's are frustrated because we're the forgotten generation. Like everybody, it's either baby boomers, millennials. It's like a whole 15 years just gone. Like we don't exist. That we legit don't exist. And so, but when Gen X, when millennials don't have language, who they come talk to, because they don't really come directly to boomers. This is what I mean by saying we are the bridge. We don't exist until y'all need something. We don't exist to the boomers until they need somebody to explain to them what the Gen X, what millennials are talking about, and why Gen Z acting the way they acting. We don't exist to the millennials or the Gen Z until they need to talk to their grandmother or an elder in the church, and they don't understand why, So we're always the one people talk to, but we're also forgotten at the same time. Like we do not exist outside of crisis. Like we're built for crisis, and that's it.
Before you go to the next thing, let me ask you a question for understanding, because when I heard you talking the first time, for me it sounded like this is the oldest child that the parents experiment on and then get better with the other kids as they're coming along. So is that a clear understanding of that?
We're not even the oldest child, because the oldest has responsibilities. We're the middle. So it's like, let's say you have 4 kids. We're the second born. We're not the oldest. We're not the knee baby, and we're not the baby. So we're that child that just gets lost in the sauce. Like, you know what? You'll figure it out. We'll watch our older. It's just we'll figure it out. It is one of those things. Right. And we tend to be the mediator between the siblings, because the second born tends to be the mediator between the siblings, because, doesn't want to understand. But which generation is hardest to talk to, it depends on what the subject is. If for my Gen Zers, full of zeal, no wisdom. Full of it. I mean, they have They have the great ideas, and this is not shade. I mean, I respect it. They have the great ideas. They're going to, Black Lives Matter. They're going to march. They want to burn the whole, burn it all the way down to the ground. Burn it to the ground. Set the whole thing on fire. Okay, great. So what's your plan afterwards? Is what Gen X is saying. Oh, we don't want a plan. We just want to burn it down. But you can't burn it down. You have a plan. And so we frustrate the Gen Zers and millennials at times, because we're the ones to say, hold up, wait, what's the plan? And so it depends on what it is and what the topic is. We find frustration with baby boomers because baby boomers just know everything. Y'all know everything. Can't tell you nothing. Shut up. And you know what? A child is supposed to be seen and not heard. You stay in a child's place. I'm 45 years old, but somehow I'm supposed to stay in a child's place. I haven't been a child in 20 some odd. I've been paying my own bills for 26 plus years. Okay, raising your grandbabies, but we can't tell you nothing. Like, you know everything. You're stubborn, stuck in your ways. It's hard, stiff-necked at times. It's holiness or hell. But a lot of baby boomers have not studied scripture. They've memorized it, but have not been students of scripture. So when you try to tell them that's not what that means, no, you in your feelings. It's king, all I need is me and the King James are walking together for a long time. So for Gen Xers, being the invisible generation, we find frustration with all the generations, depending upon what the topic is. And then our frustration for us is, who do we turn to? Because the millennials are looking to us for guidance. Okay, great. We don't have it all together, but we're supposed to have it all together because everybody wants to have it all together because we're always bridging. And so, like, who do we turn to besides other Gen Xers? Because we can't bleed on millennials all the time. We definitely can't bleed on Gen Z. And we don't feel like hearing "I told you so" from the baby boomers.
Because we gonna tell you no.
And there's no disrespect to each generation, but that's just where we fall in line with it, right? So we then figure out on our own, and we make a lot of mistakes trying to figure it out on our own because we have no good example before us. Can I say another thing about our baby boomers?
Absolutely, go for it.
There's not a lot of great examples with them. And so we're being the example, but we've messed it up a lot. So another reason why, Gen Z is like, I don't have nothing to do with the institutions, because Gen X has been trying to figure it out because there are secrets that boomers won't tell us. Okay, so great. Y'all got the secrets, and I'm telling them I'm monopolizing the time, but so it's just, I got to give voice to X because we don't get to talk often. Okay, I'm done.
I'm here for all of this. So wait, I'm loving the fact, and let me just say, I agree with a lot that you have said concerning my generation. I try to be one that listens, because I'm not ready. I'm not always. Let me say this. Maybe I'm not always ready to listen, because when I'm ready to listen, or when things keep smacking me in the face, I'll start pulling up younger generation to say, "Hey, what is this?" For example, I have to do these videos for my university, and my professor told me, "You have to make this inclusive language," and I'm like, "Well, I said boys and girls. I said guys and gals. I said, like, what's the problem?" And she was like, "It's not inclusive." And I immediately pulled up Christian and was like, "What does she mean by that?" And I think from that conversation, from that question, me, him, and Shar started having a conversation about some things we're going to get into later. But I think if I can help any of my baby boomers out, we got to start closing our mouths because we do a lot of talking. And we got to start opening up our ears. You got to be fed. There's no other way I can say it. You got to be fed. You got to be faithful, accountable, and teachable. You got to be faithful to listen to them. You got to be accountable to your own growth and spreading of your own wings. You got to be faithful to that, and just begin to be accountable to hearing what other generations have to say. And let me also say, this is not everybody in every generation. These are our experiences, people we have encountered. And so over the span of time while we're doing this, you may hear other things. And I don't know why we have these great conversations that we never can do in one part. But let's hit that second go. Okay, go ahead, Blair. Let me let Blair jump in.
I'm sorry. I wanted to piggyback. So I think the listening and the talking is a little twofold, and I feel like sometimes we lean too far one way or too far the other way. I actually think the difficult part about the communication amongst all of the generations is not just a church thing, but a Black community thing. We are not sharing our experiences truthfully. I think that the problem is you're like, okay, I need to listen. But sometimes I need to listen and I need you to talk and give your experience truthfully. You and I talk a lot about marriage. As me being a millennial married, and even as you being a boomer married, yes, there are some things that are different, but there are so many things about marriage that crosses the generations that I needed your experience to even at times understand my own. Yeah. And then I needed your experience to then know that I have a safety in you when I'm having a moment and I need to speak to another wife. I think sometimes the disconnect in the communication is we are not authentically sharing our experiences. It can be talking to someone without telling them I told you so. Mm-hmm. It can be talking to someone to say, here, I have empathy for your situation. It can be talking to someone and saying, hey, I understand because I have been here. Hey, I understand your frustration with the church, because at one point in time, I was frustrated with the church. And just instead of giving, oh, well, you know, the church won't do what the church won't do. No.
That is unacceptable.
There has to be, as you said, we need bridges instead of it being a flow. If we talked and shared knowledge, how did stories have come all the way from Africa that have never been written, but they've just been passed down through the generations? We stopped talking with authenticity and kindness and love. When we talk in those tones and in those manners, I think that's when the flow comes back, and then maybe we don't need bridges.
Yeah, I think I agree with you,
so the
Blair.
Communication.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I'll say this. There are times I want to say I told you so, but having heard I told you so much, I make sure I never say it, because I understand how it feels. You telling me that you told me so. You did tell me so, but I messed up. Now, how do I get out of this? And so that's where I'm on the cups of kind of thinking like Gen Xers, but really being born during those baby boomer times. And I have Chris's thing up here because I think, Chris, this is very, very important when we start talking about these generations and the times that we were living in. This is key to really understanding. And if you don't get to know the times and the seasons that people were born in, I know for my generation, I can remember going down south and being called a nigger. I can remember my mother's stories of how she's 1938. I can remember her telling me stories about being in North Carolina when her father would take her down there to visit, and they were still using outhouses. Well, I remember as a kid, one of my great grandmother had an outhouse, but that's a whole nother situation. Or she would have to go where it was for coloreds only. And so some of that anger that I experienced coming up with that kind of parent is because of her anger to society and her not feeling like, and on top of that, she a woman, she didn't feel like she had a foot in the door in any area. And I'm not really sure how far she had went in education either. So it could be a lot of things for different generations. And I just knew for me, when I was coming up underneath my mom, I felt like, you know, you don't want me to say nothing. You don't want me to do nothing. And if you tell me the sky is purple, even though I can look outside and see it's blue for myself, you don't want me to know that. That's not a baby boomer mentality. So I got beat 3, 4, like KYW, 2, 3, 4 times a day. You got to be in Philadelphia to understand that. So I get it. We do need to have these conversations, because I can remember being in church as well, I wasn't in church, but I remember coming to church in my early 20s with a kid that was 10. So they automatically knew that I was a teen mom, and I was looked down on. You know, I get it. And I was the one screaming out, don't be looking down your nose at me, because mine is here with me. They sent yours down south. So I get it. I totally get it. But the purpose is, in my mind, is where do we stop this bleeding onto the next generation? Where do we stop? And so you guys are giving some really great points, because we got to get to the place where we can lose information and know that our information won't be held against us once you get mad. Come on, Nakia, and then I want Christian and Char to jump in after you.
I think part of the issue is that each generation feels justified in their generation and no one understands them. And so we each tend to not listen or tend to act out in a bratty way when it comes to the other generations. So Gen Xers, you know what, I've been around, I understand, you know, I was around and understand the boomers really well. And although I didn't have a cell phone as a teenager, I understand. I mean, I was there through part of that process, so I know best. And then millennials will come in with their know best from their vantage point. And then Gen Z, you know what, if the system really worked, it would have worked, but since it don't work, you know, maybe we know best. And we all have an attitude or a swag about, or an arrogance. I think we all have an air. Each generation has an arrogance about it. And to just be aware of that arrogance knocks us off that pedestal and knocks us off our donkey, if you will, to where we're able to have that conversation. But we have to acknowledge that each one has an arrogance about it.
Shar, definitely want you to jump in here, and I want Kristen to come, because I really want to know how he feels about having conversations with all of our generations. So Shar, go, darling.
This is a loaded question. Oh my gosh. I think I have the most trouble talking to baby boomers and Gen X. Baby boomers, I mean, obviously, because baby boomers, they know everything. And not just they know everything, but they look at us as children. I'm a 36-year-old woman who take care of myself, who has been through some things, came out of some things, studied some things, been off the porch a couple times, and I'm still a baby. And I don't know how that equates to my age, but I'm still a baby. And I'm not their child. I'm not a child. So, and I believe Charlene said it best one time. But baby boomers, they look at us as children, and they feel like they have to coddle us, and they don't. They don't have to coddle us. And so Gen X, this one is interesting to me because Gen X was taught by baby boomers. They know some secrets. There's been, I've heard of, and this is going to sound crazy, but I've heard of shut-ins. I've been to a couple, but I listened to my brother, Apostle William Johnson, talk about how you, Mom, used to have shut-ins. You made them shut in. You made them pray. You made them preach. You made them fast. You made them study. And my generation, millennials, I had to Google Benny Hinn. I had to Google Catherine Kuhlman to see how they got what they got. All I needed was somebody to teach me. And no, I didn't have anybody. I've been walking with Christ for 13 years. The first 10 years, I didn't have anybody to teach me. And so when I'm talking to a Gen Xer, they come off arrogant because they have this knowledge. And it's like, oh, you don't know that? Oh, you're not anointed. Oh, you ain't studied that? You're not studying? No one taught me how to study. until recently. And I'm not saying the last 3 years, but no one taught me how to apply this stuff. No one taught me the tools that I needed to walk. I asked someone who's a baby boomer years ago. I said, how do I have faith? And she was like, this is when I first got saved. She said, you just do. What do you mean? No one said faith comes by hearing and hearing the word. She just knew what she knew. And she didn't know how to articulate that. And that's the experience that I've had with baby boomers and Gen Xers is, the communication, because they just, and I still look to Gen Xers. I do, because y'all got it. Whatever y'all got it. And in my mind, I'm just like, I'm at the point now where I've caught a lot of things. I've caught intercession. I've caught the prophetic in some ways. I've caught, different fasting. I've caught that stuff. I want to be taught now. And baby boomers a lot of times don't have the strength. And because, like Nakia said, they just memorize. It's hard to be taught by baby boomers and Gen Xers sometimes. So that's my take on it. With the difficulties in communication with the previous generations.
For me, I have to go off of a few points to answer this question. I have to first go off of for how Gen Z, how we communicate first, because a lot of our communication is one through social media. And the reason that we even kind of lean towards social media most times is honestly because of how we, one, are basically not asked for opinions or able to even give opinions, because it's coming off as being rude to most people if we're just trying to voice an opinion. Because for me, one, when I'm talking to my parents, I have two different generations. I have Gen X and I have Millennial when I'm trying to talk to my parents. So that's two different generations, and they're not even that far off. I believe it's just a year difference. But even then, the experience is slightly different. And most times within certain households, it's rude if you're trying to give an opinion. And I think for like my relationship with my parents, definitely when I started high school, that was when we grew in our communication aspect. That was when my opinion seemed to become a lot more valid. And I definitely think it was because of my parents' experiences with that. But even with that, there's still this disconnect, because I can remember, and I know many people who would always struggle to even try to ask their parents a question or ask somebody of an older generation just an opinion on something, just because we're scared of that response or how they might react to what we're asking. And so now most of us have just gravitated towards social media because we can freely put out our opinion without being judged. And it's just an easier outlet for us. So that's one. And then you asked how I feel about every generation. It's weird for me, because for baby boomers, I don't have too much of an interaction besides like my grandparents, one. And then I have some people who would be considered baby boomers for like at my school or in those sort of settings. And it's a very like black and white situation. And that's the easiest way for me to explain that, because I've had situations to where like I've had a professor who could be like very misogynistic or like racist in even some aspects. And that's how I get like from their perspective of the baby boomer. But then when I look at the other half, I get a completely different outlook on it. So it's really hard to try to give that. There's just like a wishy-washy. But I think for most of my generation, when we look at baby boomer, we're probably not going to include our grandparents' generation or even great-grandparent generation. It's just going to be those outside people, and most times it would be a negative connotation for it. When I look at Gen X, I do have to look at I don't know. It's weird.
Christian, before you talk about Gen X, you said if you were to, because I want to understand it, you said if you were to kind of include baby boomers, it would be negative. Is it negative because we don't listen? Is it negative because we only want to hear what we have to say? Because this is an opportunity for you to really help people that are on here, going to watch this later, my generation, to be able to, you know, I know your parents say that you turn into a king when you're around us, but you know, there are a lot of, we don't want him to do nothing. Whatever he wants, that's what he's gonna get. But help the generation, because if it's negative, it has to be turned, because the baby boomers can't learn to have a relationship with Gen X and millennials and not have a great relationship, if not a good relationship with Gen Zers. Why is it negative? Besides the fact that some of us can be misogynistic.
I think it can be put across almost all generations to where it's because my generation is so young, because again, the oldest of us would be 24, and then the youngest of us would be 9, who would be my little sister. It would be a not listening at all, and it's because we are looked at as kids, and some of us we are, but for that older portion of us, it's kind of concerning, because one, we're either in college, just graduating college, or in high school, and most times our mindsets are pretty older, especially if we're looking at Black individuals, and it's a household where you're the oldest. You grow up. When you're the oldest, you basically stop having a childhood. That's honestly how it feels, and you're just like, hard to say that you're like the parent of your like siblings, but that's kind of how it feels. You just automatically grow up and you have a ton more responsibilities. So for us, it feels like we're not really kids anymore, because we just had to rapidly skip our childhood into like adulthood, or that's how it feels. So for us, it's just like, well, I don't feel like I'm a kid, even though you might look at me as that. And for me, like, I know that sometimes I may not have a very like adult perspective on certain things. And I'm 21 now, so I'm just like, legally I can be considered an adult, but if I'm looking at my parents, they could be looking at it as just like, oh, but you're still a child. You haven't really, like, you don't pay for a house, you don't pay for like your phone bill or anything like that. So you don't actually know what it's like to be an adult when I'm like here at my school, been here for 3 going on 4 years, and have been up here like by myself, paying for my own things, working while up here and stuff like that. It feels weird. Like I do, and I see a comment where it's just like responsibility. That's honestly how it feels. So it's like, for us, we feel like there is no listening from the upper generations. It's just like we like, again, for a good amount of other people, we're still kids.
You got a couple of other generations to go through.
See, I connect all of them though when it comes to.
I got you. Okay, so I just think that this is an amazing conversation, because we're unpacking some things, and we're getting to see how we are. And Chris makes it really. Chris, I'm keep calling you out, but you made some really, really great points when you talk about how Gen Z was born in the midst of 2 crises, 9/11, as well as economic boomers. And maybe that's why I love this particular grandson so much, because I like to have conversations with him, probably because he can understand a lot of things when it comes to trauma and when it comes to earth-shaking things that are going to happen. I like to hear his perspective. I sit and talk to him all the time. I don't think I've ever talked to him as a kid, because I just really like having conversations with him to hear his perspective on things. But it's kind of like I do with your Chris Nakia. I like to have conversations with him as well, to hear his mind. It's just amazing. All right. So is there anything that we need to revamp in their response? And I just want you to take a look at the 3rd question, just in case. It can go to the 3rd question, because we've been talking about communication. And this is a pretty loaded question as well, because we know if we're not communicating well, there's some other issues. And even if there weren't any other issues, because there's not communication, it creates other issues. And so Shar just looked up to the sky like, oh God. But let me also say before we move on to this question, Shar, you had a perspective that helped me out as well. When you because I think because we grew up in church, we assume everybody understands it. And so this definitely helps me out because I do more giving of your sister things, perspectives and whatnot than I do you, which is crazy because you're all twins and we're always around each other. But I knew from the beginning I needed to teach certain things because of her introduction to church. Versus yours, you came in like, what's up? Where's it at? What we gonna get? And so that was an assumption that I made, and I'm grateful to be your spiritual mom now. You know, because as your spiritual sister, I was like, girl, this is what we doing. Girl, this is what we doing. I was treating you like Gen Xers treat y'all. Girl, that's what we doing. Why you don't know that? Let's go. But as your spiritual mom, just becoming your spiritual mom in this last year, I needed to hear that to know I can't just give things to Lean and not give them to you as well. You may need to be taught different things, but you need to be taught as well. So thank you for that perspective. And this is why these kind of conversations are so very, very important, because I need to know. I didn't even know that, and I'm hoping there's other baby boomers that can say this as well. I didn't even know that, Gen X felt the way that they did. They gave me my daughter Gen X. All three of my girls is. No, my youngest is a millennial. My oldest two are Gen Xers. And so, yeah, that's why she acts so different. She's a millennial. The older two are Gen Xers, and they have given me a piece of their mind a couple times. And my response is always a baby boomer's response. You need to respect me because I'm your mom. Forget all the other nonsense. Watch your tone when you talk to me. But you gave me a perspective to be able to see there's some underlying feelings and thoughts that have not been maybe released. And I want to say this to baby boomers, because they didn't release them to you, they were respecting you. Because they could have been a millennial or Gen Z and just let you have it. So thank you to the Gen Xers, but I'm glad we are able to learn it now so that my feelings is not so hurt in this process. All right, let me see. Who want to go first on this one? Because what time is it?
I'll go. So I think one of the main difficulties, besides communication, is vulnerability. I feel like throughout every generation, because there's a level of vulnerability that I didn't know existed until the generation under me responded to my vulnerability. And so it caused me to look back at baby boomers. I don't know nothing about y'all. All I know is y'all used a lot of oil. That's all I know is y'all used a lot of oil. But when it comes down to, baby, you can get through this because I was molested. I didn't get that. And I thank the Lord that I got through my experiences off the strength of him. But there were certain things that I wish, looking back, I had have known, because baby boomers aren't vulnerable. Y'all the generation that swept stuff under the rug and it stayed there. And dealing with the generation under me, and I can appreciate Nakia in her generation, because they were the lost generation, and they are the generation now that I go to, for the most part, that I go to for language, that I go to for understanding, that I can use to be a sounding board for a lot of things. But that vulnerability piece, and also there's a trust factor that has been lost between the generations, especially my generation and baby boomers. There's just a lot of trust issues there, because there's a lack of vulnerability, and transparency. And I feel like once we can get that together, and baby boomers, it's okay for you to be vulnerable. That's a strength. It's okay for you to be transparent with us and not just give us these cliches and not just tell us to, give it to God. How did you do it? I want to know, how did you do it? How did you overcome that? How did you give it to God? How did you get through what you got through, and not just, I just trusted the Lord? Because for us in our minds, we're analytical. A lot of us are thinkers. I'm thinking all the time, and I overthink a lot because I don't have the answers. And there's some areas in my life where if I just had an answer that you have, because you've been through it, then it'll make this a lot easier for a lot of us. So that's the difficulty.
Yeah, let me say this. You don't get a lot of answers from a lot of baby boomers because probably 95% of them don't have answers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just be honest. How did I make it through? That's a loaded question. It would depend on the circumstance, because I ain't always been saved. So, I would have to, think about that. Like, how did I get through? I messed up a lot.
Yeah.
I messed up a lot. I fell a lot. I'm the chick that beat a minister up in the pastor's office. I messed up a lot. I had to learn from my own mistakes. So that's why when you guys ask me that, I'll be like, listen, don't do that. Listen, don't say that. Listen, don't post that. Because I had to learn from my own mistakes, because there was nobody higher up in the baby boomers that could explain anything to me. There was nobody baby boomer one that was giving out any information.
Yeah. But we need that, though. We need I fell a lot. Because what it makes it look like to us at times is you never fell. So I don't know what I'm doing, because you look like you never fell, and I'm falling. And I'm not watching you fall. Yeah. I don't know you fell. So I'm struggling even more, because I feel like I'm in this by myself. Yeah. You got to tell me that you fell. You got to tell me what you did before you got to Christ, because I'm running it through my mind too. But if I know that so what I say to people at times is, so from the other side of this, so here's where I originally was, but from the healed side, I can see that I was wrong then. From the knowing Jesus side, from the going to therapy side. But before I got there, here's where I was, but from the other side. Also, even in the question, I'm sorry, I just jumped right in. I think the question is loaded because communication is the root, and anything else is all the fruit of it. So acknowledging that, yes, there are other difficulties, but still when Shar was identifying those are just fruits of communication being the root of the lack of transparency that comes from communication, the lack of vulnerability that comes from communication. Communication is the root. We can always identify the fruits and other things that come up, but we're going to have to dig this root up. Dig it up, cut it, don't let it be buried again, don't leave none of it, because it can't grow again.
I think the issue might come from, and please don't hear anything I say as an excuse, because I'm totally in agreement with all that you guys are saying. I'm told I'm too transparent, because I show my scars, because I really feel like, who wants to follow an unscarred general? So I share my scars. I can't really explain why most baby boomers don't, but I have people that were raised by baby boomers and Gen X telling me, you shouldn't have told that. You tell too much. I wouldn't have never let nobody know that. I wouldn't have told that. I wouldn't have put that in my sermon. And the reason I am so transparent is because nobody taught me. So I try to help you guys out when you come to me. Now, if you ain't coming to me, let me say this for every other generation. If you're not coming to us asking us, we're not always offering. Sometimes the unanswered question hasn't been asked. Maybe we just need to ask the question, because I'm an open book. I will tell you everything about me. People don't know the math. Christian's mom is 40. I'm 56. There's no secrets in the aging, and so I think it's a twofold. One, people got to stop telling us that we don't need to be telling this stuff, as if we're less anointed because we tell it. And two, you guys have to ask the questions. Chris and Nakia, I want to hear y'all.
So here's going to be the typical Gen Xer bridge building answer. Gen Z and Millennials are asking boomers for something that they can't give you. You guys grew up with therapists readily available. Their generation didn't have that. They didn't have access to that. They didn't have access to communication. You're dealing with people whose parents were sharecroppers, who a lot of baby boomers had to drop out of school in middle school to work in a field to pick up. You get what I'm saying? So they're uneducated. A lot of them are uneducated. Their communication was stunted because they're not as educated. A lot of them are embarrassed because they're not educated. And so you have this embarrassment. You have this lack of access. You have, and I'm not making excuses. These are just facts. So they didn't have language. You want something they don't have. A lot of them don't have language because they don't have language. And so, and then you have this young person who's more articulate than them, who is much more educated than them, coming to them, and a lot of them are in their feelings. And the reaction you're getting is shame that is wrapped in agitation. Thanks, Sean. So apparently my earrings were causing some problems. So is that better? Thank you. I can hear it. So you're wanting something that they don't have. And can you imagine being the adult and a teenager or a young person is coming to you asking you a question that you have no ability to answer? And then your pride wraps into that. And so now you are exposing my deficiency. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not making it right. So again, this is what Gen Xers do. We try to find, because we give language to our boomers, right? And so then with the whole, you're telling too much. As Gen Xers, we know what happens when things go viral. We know what happens when the wrong person gets a hold of this, and we understand how people become social media famous. And so here we are trying to protect everybody again. Don't say that, because I don't want you in these social media streets. You know, be sure that you're okay with that, because people got, you know, people got, because this is a year of receipts. You know, I release them myself. I listen, slide in my DMs. I'm putting it out there. This is the year of the receipt. And so we're like, okay, mom, dad, uncle, big sis, whatever, whoever we look up to, I want you to keep your name clean. And people take a snippet of what you said and pervert it and twist it and say, and make it seem like you said something that you didn't say. And so now we're like, make sure when you're selling that stuff in your sermon, you're okay with your name being drug in the mud. And so in private, a lot of these boomers will tell you anything you want to know in private. But if you ask them publicly, they're not going to tell you. So you're right. If the question isn't asked, they're not going to tell you. If you do it publicly, I feel like you're trying to shame me. I'm not going to tell you. And then the last piece. So I am unchurched. I did not grow up in the church. So the reason why I'm as raw as I am is because I'm unchurched. I don't have the issues of the church. I don't have to unlearn any of the stuff of the church. I didn't have to go through half of the stuff people had to go through dealing with the institution of the church. But as an outsider looking in, we are like piranhas with our own people. We eat our young. We do a lot of things the institution does. We pitted things against. And so a lot of boomers are bearing wounds and scars that they don't ever want you to know about. They don't want you to know about them being propositioned in the back room. And they're not going to tell you why. They're telling you, Charlene, don't you dare. Why are you in that man's face? So you are offended, Charlene. Like, why are you telling me not to be in this man's face? And what the boomer is not telling you, that man sexually assaulted me 10 years ago, and I'm ashamed to tell you that. But all you're getting is the wrath of the back part of it, right? And so you have all of that stuff going on. And I don't know. Okay, so that's why that vulnerability is not there, because the one time I was vulnerable, somebody exploited it. the one time I was transparent, someone used it against me. Someone weaponized it. And so you have a lot of that going on. But then you have Gen Xers and then millennials like, you know what? Because of Zoom, because of Facebook, because of Periscope, because of YouTube, I don't have to deal with the issues of the institution. I can still have my voice and not be scathed by the institution. Whereas a good portion of the Gen Xers who were church and the boomers, all they know is the institution. And so they're still operating from the institutional mindset. Does that make sense? I know I said a lot. And okay. So
and
Christian,
that was really super good because majority of baby boomers have been church. See, I'm unchurched, and I think that's why I'm transparent, because I didn't get saved till I was in my 20s. And when I was before that, I was hell on the streets. And so, you know, that makes a lot of sense of why I wasn't told a lot of things. So yeah, you made that very, 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 very clear. I also want to say, because I've been looking at a lot of comments, and then I want Christian, I want you to come in. I've been looking at a lot of comments. You know, it almost seems like, I don't know whether it's frustration or it's anger that you guys didn't get what you needed to get from my generation. But we have to learn how to see people where they are, regardless of who that person may be or what you may have experienced. You have to see those people for where they are. And let me even say this, because this is another thing, Nakia, that you hit on the head. Even though I wasn't churched, I recently spoke to a young lady at the end of last year in the fall about a particular person. They completely stopped speaking to me. And I had to pursue them to say, hey, did I offend you? Is there something that I did? Because that's my personality. Is it something that I did? Is it something that I said? And finally, after all of those calls, it was like, well, how you feel about that person got nothing to do with me. So sometimes we'll tell you guys, and you're offended that we told you. So if you want to know something from Martina, I can only speak for Martina. You want to know something from Martina? Come to Martina. She going to ask you. She going to give you the tea. But I'm just not a gossiper. You're not going to come to me and gossip about stuff. But I will tell you why I feel a certain way about things. I'm one that hold confidences. There's nobody that could ever be on here or anywhere else that can say they told me something and it wasn't held in confidence, because it is critical that we become what we're expecting. It's critical we become what we're expecting. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, I did want to respond to that because that was really good. The one thing that I thought about while listening to that, though, was it being this comparison between being a good parent versus a bad parent. That's how I viewed it. Because when you look at a good parent, even if they don't know, they're going to encourage you to try to go find the information to learn more and to be better than who they were. But a bad parent is going to not really even try to do that because they are scared of those things. And I have this question of, why would the baby boomer generation be this sort of bad parent? And because of what they went through, and try not to make the generations below them be better than who they were. Because I don't think we usually see that at all. So that's how I think of it. Why aren't we seeing from this generation of baby boomers? Well, I know I may not even want to tell you what I've gone through, but I do want you to be better than who I am. So go out and get this information. I'm sorry that I can't help you with it, but maybe I can try to help you look, or something like that. I feel like that's a better way of how it could have happened than just not doing anything at all or hiding from it, hiding yourself from that.
I agree. That's a great perspective, Christian. I think most of the times from my perspective, it's not even this is your parent not telling you. These are people that you in church with. These are people just from the whole generation as a whole. And unfortunately, there are people like me that can say, you can ask me anything, I'll tell you. You might not like my answer. You might not agree with my answer, but if you ask me, I can only give you what I know. But there are those who, because you don't give the answer you want, or maybe they don't understand, they don't ask the next question, maybe. I think parents do the best that they can. If I get I got an Apple laptop. I have no idea how it functions. So I don't use it. I use my Dell. Because when reading the directions, it sounds like Greek to me. If I'm making sense.
Come out from among them. I need you to come out from among them. I need you to be apostolic in this season, okay? So we rebuke that Dell spirit, that whole principality. We bind it. We uproot it. We come to the root in the name of Jesus. We speak apostolic anointing of flow, rivers flow in the name of Jesus. We don't do that Dale spirit over here in holiness. It's holiness or nothing at all. Apostolic is still right.
I'm in agreement.
Me too.
Listen, it has set
we bind that principality in the name of Jesus. We bind the strong man.
You have sat there the whole year because I don't know how to function. I said, I'll just wait for Christian to come and he gonna explain it. He gonna explain it to me because I don't understand how it functions and the directions look Greek. Anyway, I set it up and that's as far as I got. But let's just take for a moment that you have a parent that's Hewlett Packard, HP, or some of y'all didn't even know HP stood for Hewlett Packard. So that was an educational moment. So just think that maybe you got a parent that's Hewlett Packard. Stop laughing, you guys. Or maybe you got a parent that's Dell mentality. Come on, Apostle. Come on. She said, listen, Teresa said it is good. Dell is good. And you have children
y'all have not tasted and seen that the apple is good. That's the problem.
You have children that are apostolic. It's a different language. And I think sometimes, and maybe it is being communicated, some of the things that we need to say, but we're not saying it. And that's not for everybody. Because listen, if I go back to the years, I think my mom, my mother's a baby boomer too. No, she's not. She's a baby boomer one. She's a baby boomer one. And it was a whole lot of things that she didn't say. And so I think baby boomers too tried to do things differently for their children than the baby boomers one did for us. And I think in doing that, we made some major mistakes because we just threw the baby out with the bathwater. We was like, we don't want no parts. We're not going to do that to our kids. You know, what was done to us, we're not going to do that to our kids. And in the process of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, we threw out some great foundational things and started all over and just made a mess of some things. And so that's the best that I can say for my generation is that, listen, y'all, we tried and we still trying because we're still here. And we don't want to continue in the manner where we are, the way it looks like we're heading. We don't want to continue that way. And so there are some that's going to say, listen, I'm done with that. It is what it is. Get over it. Then there are those like me that's saying, well, you don't have to get over it. How can we help you heal? So this is our next question that, you know, from this question evolving. How do we help you heal and how do we go forward? What does it take for each generation? What can we do to help? Wait a minute, my spiritual mom saying something. Can't help you with this one. You apostolic too, Apostle Sheldon? I got to come up in my mind.
Of course he's apostolic. Of course he's apostolic. I mean, you can look at that. You can tell who know him for real.
Oh, Jesus,
you can tell those who walk with him for real. You can tell those who are apostolic.
Y'all gonna help get me, Christian, when you come home on your next break, you gotta help get me together. Listen, how do we help you move forward? We know that I hear you, and I'm hoping others here are hearing. I hear you. We need to teach better. We need to communicate better. We need to be transparent with you all. And I'm not talking about tell your business to everybody, but those you have relationship with, I get it. So if you have relationship with people, like be transparent with them. What else? Or give me more of that in this last 22 minutes. Give me more of what can we do.
Can I start this one too? So one thing I would say is that what we would need to do, which is also a thing we have a problem with, is embracing change from other generations. Because I think a lot of with like last year, because earlier in the talk we had said about like Gen Z, how we're very like fire and quick to act. But like, what's the plan afterwards? And I think it's because we're so frustrated with how everything hasn't changed that we need to break it down and then and start from there. We don't really need a plan right now. Nothing has changed from how everything has been going on so far. So how we've been trying to it seems like you've been trying to figure out a plan of where to go since the beginning, and you haven't figured anything out. So why don't we just tear it down and start from there? Like, just work it from the bottom up. I think it's more so just we need that change, because if we haven't done anything yet, when are we if we don't do anything now?
So you're saying let's begin to start building a new foundation. Now, let me be clear. Let me get clarity. Are we talking about a new foundation in relationship, or are we talking about, because we can't tear down the church. It already has a foundation, which is Jesus. Are we talking about in the relationship aspect? Is that what we need to be doing at this particular time?
I think it needs to be with a relationship aspect and in mindset. Because a lot of people in the church, one things that we should have, which is the acceptance portion, but we don't see it. Most people are very quick to judge based off of anything that they see wrong or don't see is not their ideal portion of Christianity.
One of the reasons why, guys, it was imperative for me to do this conversation, and I think maybe this is a conversation we should have once a month, once every other month or something. I'm back in school, finishing up my degree. The first time I went to school, I was in school with Gen Xers. Well, I was in school with Millennials. And then I'm going back now, and I'm in school with Gen Zers. And it broke my heart when one of the young men said, we were in the chat because it was an online class. He said, I've never felt loved by my church. And I said, what? And he said, I've never felt loved by my church. And so at that point, I knew that it wasn't an African-American thing because he's Caucasian. And so something has happened. He said he doesn't even feel like they see him when he shows up to church. And I remember my conversation with Blair last year where she made a statement that my heart like got a pain in it, where she said, I don't feel like there's space for us to be who we are in church. Yet when the pandemic hit, we were asking the Millennials and the Gen Zers to help us out with going online for church. And so maybe we do, Christian. I wrote that down, that there needs to be a changing in relationship and mindset. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you, what does that look like? But I want to hear from the Millennials and Gen X as well.
Well, I'm sorry, what question are we answering? What do we need to do?
My computer just told me I was on mute.
Okay.
What do we need to what you're not gonna do, Nikki, is talk about my Dell that I'm live on today.
If you were apostolic, that's all I was saying.
But we not, okay? What do we need to do? Because I feel like it goes into this question. You know, even though this question is saying, do you feel loved by other generations? Let me just blanket this statement to say, and I can correct it if I need to. If you feel loved, then you feel like there's space for you. If you feel loved, then you feel like we can move forward. Like, where are we? What do we need to do to be better generationally, holistically?
I feel like I think platforms like this where we can talk freely candidly and openly about issues, I think is a start. More conversations, whether it's on a Facebook Live or is in my living room. I think conversations need to be had because there's so much that we haven't even unpacked. There's so much that we haven't even unpacked. And I feel like having conversations like this where I can hear from or watch comments from Mom G, her express her concern as well as say, just be patient with us because we're still learning. Having this open dialogue for me is a start. Now, because I didn't grow up in the church and because I didn't have a lot of what I have now, I just learned to not even care. I learned to love who I love, be embraced by who embraces me. But holistically, I feel like we just need to have these conversations and be open to whatever I have to say, be open to whatever Nakia has to say, be open to whatever Blair has to say and Christian has to say, and you, Mom, just be open to what we have to say. I feel like I'm loved. I feel like I'm loved. Sometimes I don't feel respected. And by baby boomers, for the most part, by Gen Z, Gen X, sometimes I don't feel like I'm respected. I don't feel like, but loved, yes, I feel loved. And, if the two go hand in hand, then maybe there's some respect there, but I don't feel like that. I'm not one who wears my emotions a lot of times. So I kind of just stuff it or bottle it or whatever. But, sometimes I don't feel respected. I don't feel like, I should be in a place where I'm allowed to fit. And I'm one who I could get with anybody. I could cut your ear off if I needed to, but I'll let Nakia do it, and I'll let Charlene do it, and I'll let, the Blairs do it. But I also can show you that compassion that you need while, cutting you a little bit, because that's probably what you need sometimes. I'm not going to castrate you, but I feel like there should be a little bit more respect. But I definitely feel loved. I do. I think I'm among people who understand 1 Corinthians 13. I think I'm among people who really understand what love is because of the lack of love that we might have gotten. But I definitely feel loved by all generations. Charlene said gladly. She'll gladly cut your ears off. Both of them. You won't hear nothing at all. You won't have any ears.
I think the love point versus respect is really interesting. So I might have a different perspective because I was raised in the church. So I grew up in the church. So let me say this. I grew up in the church. I went to Catholic school and my father is Muslim. So I felt like I grew up in multiple religions. So really understanding respect in religions, period, is very important to me. Because even when we don't agree, I think there has to be a respect. I think that's the entire point of love, is not agreeing but still being respectful. As far as growing up in the church and feeling love versus feeling love and respected now, I've struggled with that. The same women that would come and pick me up for dance rehearsal and choir rehearsal talked about me when I was pregnant in college. So the feeling the love in the church, it has I think it's changed over the years, or my understanding of it has changed. It wasn't that they didn't love me, but their concern didn't come off appropriately, if I can say it like that. So because if they came and picked me up as a little girl, if they fed me while my mom was at work, if they watched me, while she had something to do, or made sure I got to church and choir rehearsal and usher practice, if they did those things, then at some point I felt like they loved me. because they looked out for me. But then when I got old enough to voice my opinion, I felt like the love dwindled a little bit. Like when I wasn't doing what you wanted me to do and wasn't saying what you wanted me to say, then I actually felt unloved. So I guess that's even a thing across the generations, is making sure that even though we don't agree, the love and the respect is still there. Because I've had a very up and down battle with the church, just from parting ways with people and different things like that. So I think I definitely struggle with the feeling loved by certain aspects of the institution when the rules aren't followed.
So for me, can I give a non-institution answer? Because again, I am not church, and when I finally came into the institution, the person that I am now is how I came into it. So even when all the other craziness was trying to happen around me, the person that I am now is what came into it. So it didn't really to me in that way. As a Gen Xer, I absolutely feel loved by all the generations because Gen X is the cool aunt of the whole situation. We are. Who else do you come to when, hey, you want to go get a piercing, you want to get a tattoo, you need to talk to your mom about, hey, I'm saying gender 11, I don't know what to say. Gen X is that dude. I mean, we that generation. We legitimately are. You know, hey, I don't understand these Gen Zs, this, that, and that. Although we're the forgotten generation in a sense that people don't know that Gen X is a generation. But for some odd reason, this generation is the generation everybody comes to when they need something. And so I absolutely feel loved. I am the cool aunt. I've always been the cool aunt and will always be the cool auntie. I never want to, I mean, it is what it is. We represent so many different things in so many different capacities. And because we're the cool aunt, we feel like we have room to say whatever we want to say, how we want to say it, and we don't always say it right. We don't. We feel like, you know what, since I'm a cool auntie, I can pull I can pull you by your collar and you just deal with the fact I just pull you by your collar. And guess what? You know what? I know you mad. We go have drinks tonight. Come by the house. You know, we'll have some wine and just be mad about it together. Okay. I'm gonna come on over. I'm gonna fry some fish for you. I'm gonna fix you something to eat. You're gonna be mad. We can talk trash about it and be good. Or I'm the cool aunt, you know, you want to go in the back and fight, and after we get done, after I done dust you up real good, then we can come back and we're going, because that's what we do. That's what Gen X does. So I definitely feel loved. Respect, that's something different. Respect there's a sliding scale on what respect is in the eye of the beholder and what respect is. And so what one person may deem as disrespect, the other person may not deem as disrespect. And I find that each generation views respect differently. I find that some of the younger generations, as long as you're going along with and supporting in some instances what they're saying and doing, you're good. The moment you give them a hard stop, I feel disrespected. I feel like you're not hearing me. It's not that I don't hear you. I just don't agree with you. And I'm not going to agree with you. And we can stop talking about it. Hard stop. And so I feel that communication, as much as we say we want communication, there's a gap in communication in every generation. But for me, if I can be completely honest, I don't see the issues within the generation that people have made it out to be. It's not this big thing. All of us are in relationship with other generations, you know, whether it be your aunt, your cousin, your coworker, your classmate. We're all in conversation and communication with multiple generations at one time. The issue may not be a generational issue. The issue may be a person issue. You're going to have a bigot in every generation. You're going to have an ignorant such and such in every generation. You're going to have a closed-minded person in every generation. You're going to have somebody who's accepting in every generation. You're going to have somebody who's understanding in every generation. And so I think sometimes we create a narrative that is not necessarily there. What it boils down to is everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to have a safe place and space. And not all of us have that, whether it be our families or our extended families. And because we don't have it, we put this huge label on an entire people group when your real issues with a select few people. Thank you for tuning into my TED Talk. I'll holler at y'all later.
She make me sick. It's the straight face for me. So yeah, so we bring out these particular questions. I think even if it may not be a generational thing, most times it seems like a generational thing. When I have millennials coming to me because they're not understood by people and they're all in my generation, I gotta do a hard stop and take a hard look at my generation and myself. Because am I adding to the problem? Or am I assisting the problem? Or am I the problem? And I think those are three things that we rarely ask ourselves. I don't know too many people that actually take a look introspectively at themselves. We all want to think we're right all the time. But the hard truth is we're not. We're not. And when I have a bunch of millennials come to me and say, yo, I'm having a problem with my mom. Okay, how old is your mom? Oh, she in my generation. Okay. Oh, I'm having a problem with my dad. Oh, how old is your dad? Oh, dang, he in my generation. We got to take a look at it.
I don't think it may be a generational thing, but it may not be a generational thing. And I'll give it to you like this. I love baby boomers in 1 and 2. I know how, but this is the reason why, I've been in churches where church mother has said some off the wall, like some mother, you did not have to say it like that. I laugh it off. I don't take it, me personally, as a person that I am, I don't internalize it, but somebody else may internalize it. And I'm not giving them a pass, but I give them a pass.
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm 75 years old, I'm going to say some things I probably shouldn't say. And I'm going to need you to give me a pass. I feel like I'm 75. I've lived through the 45. I've lived through 26 years of military service. I've lived through whatever I've lived through, and I've earned the right to be old and cantankerous.
But that right there is a problem, because I don't feel like anybody has earned the right to be mean or to just come off loose on their tongue. I've had it done to me. I don't want to slap a whole bunch of old folk when I first got saved, because I'm coming in from the street. I got more love on a bar stool than I did from people in the house of the Lord. And if we're going to say that we are the people of God, if we're going to say that we are Christians, that we are the church, then we got to come out of the institution in our own minds, and we got to start walking these scriptures. Like John 3:16, God so loved the world, he gave. So I'm going to be anything like Jesus, I got to give.
Can I give the other side of that, though? I hear you.
Come on.
I hear you. I hear you. I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm getting millennial in that moment.
I was about to say we don't stand for that. Millennials, no pass is given.
I'ma still stand in this, right? Here is my thing. For as many times, and I'm gonna just use millennial because it's easy to pick on y'all, and I'm gonna use baby boom because it's easy to pick on y'all. I have seen it go both ways. I have seen it to where the millennial will pop off, but the moment you give them back the same thing they give you, now all of a sudden they crying. I don't understand. I'm all church. Pit of struggle. On the flip side of that, I've seen baby boomers say some harsh stuff, this, that, and the other, and you call them on it, now they in their feelings, right? So it's not a generational thing. I just think it is a personality issue, and it is something that we have allowed poor communication and just a person being right. It's a maturity thing, right? And so it happens on both sides. I'm not, again, typical Gen Xers. We advocate for everybody. We're Swiss. We're the Swiss. We're Switzerland, baby.
Come on, build this bridge.
We Switzerland, baby. We touch both sides. So I've seen it go both ways. And I've seen it go both ways right, and I've seen it go both ways wrong. I've seen it to where an older person may come to a younger person, my generation or younger, and in love, sweetie, baby girl, you shouldn't do, and this is the reason why. You ain't my mama. You can't tell me what to do. I'ma do big, boo, blah, 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 woo, woo. And then I've seen it to where church mother come over and see a woman who came in off the street, who probably just left somebody's bedroom, who may have been sexually assaulted, and they just need somebody to love on them. And she coming in with a sheet. Look at you looking like a harlot. I've seen it both ways.
Baby.
So I'm not giving nobody a pass. I'm just saying we can't paint with a broad stroke everybody when there can be blame on each side. But yes, mature communication needs to happen. Humanity needs to happen. And we need to remember our humanity on all sides. So I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong.
I agree.
There's enough dirt to be slung on everybody.
I agree. We can paint with a broad brush, but I was listening, because as I was listening today, I was like, oh, I don't do that. I don't do that. But I always think of things like this. And maybe because when I first got saved, I joined choirs. The whole choir can be amazing, but if the alto's off, the whole choir off. It's a bad sound. And so I think I've had people say things to me coming into church, but I was from the streets. You ain't getting away with that. And now I don't tolerate it from my side or from millennials, Gen Zers, or anybody. We can all sit down at the table and respect each other and have a conversation. But you come with your mouth and you thinking that's going to be tolerated? No. I'm gonna pull your coattail. I'm probably gonna be nice and do it. I'm gonna pull you into a meeting with the people you did it with. We're gonna straighten that out. That's because those are the types of things that people see and say, I don't want that, Jesus. If that's what it make you do, I don't want that. And that's not what it makes it do. We have to get better within ourselves collectively.
Yes.
Collectively, because the world is watching. We were the answer for the pandemic and still are. But how do I come to you and say I don't need food when you cussed me out before the pandemic? But I watch you go to church every Sunday. Come on. We got to do better than what we got to really walk in this love that we talk about. We got to display it. And I don't see it displayed. And it's sad that I'm in the institution of the church. And there's some Sundays I don't feel it sitting as an elder on the front pew from members. But I'm the girl, because I'm from the streets, that'll stop. My hands will be lifted. I'll turn around and sweetie, walk with me outside. We need to have a conversation. Because one, you ain't going to mess up this anointing. You're not going to mess up our worship. And we're not going in service like this. I'm going to kill this demon real quick. And I'm going to be nice when I do it, because I want to display what I expect you to model after. We just got to get better. Whether that's generationally, in maturity, whatever it's going to take, we have to do it.
I think the issue is relationships. So a lot of baby boomers feel by right of age, I have the right to correct and do blah, blah, blah. Whereas Gen Z and millennial are relationship based. They don't mind a hard rebuke for someone they're in relationship with, because they know that person is coming from a genuine place. But boomers feel, because I have gotten to this age, I don't care who you are, you're going to listen. In relationships, I was going to cuss. Be danged. Yeah. But damn is in the word in the text. Relationship, be danged. And so I think that's the key part, that if the thing that can be bridged and understand it can be had, it is being relational and understanding what relational looks like and accepting relational. And Gen Xers are learning relational, because we grew up in the do as I say, not as I do. That's what raised us. We understand how that made us feel. And this is why we are the advocate for everybody. If you notice, most Gen Xers, we will fight to the bloody end in order to protect, because we are the older sibling who don't want our younger siblings to get abused like we were abused. So we've taken a lot of bruises on behalf of, and we fight on behalf of because of that. You get what I'm saying? Absolutely. But I think the issue is relational. And I'm not, you know what, y'all?
No, you're good.
That's the teacher in you.
No, you're good. You're good. I feel like if we do paint with a broad stroke, I feel like we as the body,
that's good,
should take accountability for it all. It's not me, but it is my generation. And so on behalf of my generation, I understand, and help me be better. It's not you, Nakia, but it's the generation. It's not you, Mom, but it's a generation. And even if we do paint with a broad stroke, because some of us only have that view, we only see the church or the institution as it is. And we can't see beyond our own experience. We can't see beyond what we've been through and what we've experienced from somebody else, a baby boomer who talked to me like I'm a kid. I don't know their experience because I can't see that. So even if we do paint with a broad stroke, I feel like we just need to take accountability. And the standard, there's so many standards. If the standard is just Jesus, then we'll be able to function and grow from that platform, from that foundation rather. But, the Bible says love fulfills every requirement. If we're always loving, if we're always in a place where I'm patient with you and I'm not quick to be angry because of what you said, then we'll walk in love and you'll feel loved and you'll feel respected. If that is our foundation, if Jesus is always the foundation, not your experience, not what you done heard, not what you was told. If Jesus is the foundation, and I know that can be, well, you don't know what I've been through, right? But we all been through. I have an experience, just like you have a perspective. I have a perspective, but that Jesus has to be the foundation, and we have to always look through the lens of love. Period. Not offense.
That's the heart.
I learned early not to wear offense on me. I can't. And if I'm offended, truly, somebody had to offend me. But I learned early not to wear that, because I try to always look through the lens of love and to see your difference and to see your perspective and your point of view. And I think that a lot of times we're missing that. We're only looking through our experience, and our experience can be tainted by what we've been through. I always feel rejected if I've been rejected. If I'm not healed, I'll always feel abandoned. If you say, you know what, I got to take some time off, I'll always feel that way. But if I'm looking through the lens of love, I'll say, you know what, maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they just they didn't have enough of people. Maybe they just need to be away from people. It has nothing to do with me. But, we really do need to walk on that foundation of Jesus being the standard.
Chris, I want to hear from you, and Blair, and then we're going to wrap this up tonight. This has been an amazing conversation.
No, I can definitely say that I agree. It's definitely on a relationship aspect. And I think it's because if you look at a lot of other cultures that are very different from ours, their cultures are very built on a hierarchy of age, or older people being like the highly respected and you don't question it. But I think for our culture specifically, we can't look at that and say that that's going to be the same for us, especially with the country that we live in and the age that we live in. It doesn't work out like that. It has to be built, like for us, it's built on relationships. The reason I can talk to older generations and feel like I can have a conversation, or at least want to have a conversation, is because I do have those people in my life who built that relationship with me and give me the at least feeling as if I can talk to these generations and actually try to come out with a compromise or some sort of compromise for it. So I definitely agree with that. It's definitely for like millennials and Gen Z, it's definitely built off of a relationship aspect, while the older generation is still built on, we are older than you, and so we should be respected, and there's no questioning that. Which I just think it has to change a little bit, just because I can't look at somebody just because they're older than me and say that I'm going to respect you. that doesn't make sense in my head. It doesn't compute, because what have you done for me that makes me respect you? Your age, that doesn't work. How does your age give you respect? That doesn't make sense.
I think when it comes to relationships, and even with the boomers, I definitely agree with everybody of how heavy millennials and Gen Z are with relationships. But I think the biggest thing is there's a healing that has to happen. Like, what part of the boomers isn't healed that is like, you guys can't have relationships with us where the flow goes both ways? What part of it is that this cannot be back and forth for you guys? You know, and like you said, it's not everybody, but where does it become a back and forth where it's more of a give and take, where yes, you all can deposit in us, but like you said, Christian has to come and teach you how to use your computer. Where does the back and forth come in it? But even with the back and forth, that's how you build better relationships. Relationships can't be one-sided. So as you learn to listen, and as you learn to share with those that you're in relationship with authentically, you know, that's where the flow comes in it, and that is how we're building it. And that's how you guys, even what if through the building relationships with us is where the healing even comes. There has to be a back and forth. There has to, I want to let go of the transparency and the authenticity, but I can't, like, you know, that's my thing, the heart posture. But the healing can, what if the healing is coming from a younger person? You have to allow, even allow God to let you know who that person is that you could be transparent with, so that the healing can come through them. So then you can maybe even then have even more relationships with other people in younger generations. I know I saw a couple of people saying like, this is helping me with my grandchild and my great grandchild and things like that. As you begin to build relationships with people in these other generations and begin to open up and let the flow go both ways, it'll open up so many other doors and opportunities to so many other people in those generations. But it goes for millennials too. It goes for all of us. We have to be able to heal and get the flow to go both ways, and to be able to love each other. When it hurts, we still communicate. When we don't like it, we still communicate, because if it's done out of love, then you want the best for me. It's happening for me and not to me.
I love, go ahead, Nakia.
So I wanna, because I'm watching the comments, and okay, so this is part of Nakia's makeup. Nakia is just an advocate. That's just who I am, right? And so I want to preface it with this, because I want you to hear the heart in which I'm going to make this statement. And this is not Peter talking. This is really me in my mercy gift speaking. And if those who know me know, as hard as I am and as rough as I am, I have this huge mercy gift that pisses me off, that I really wish I didn't have. Because it's like a duality. How can I be Peter and fully merciful at the same time? I don't get it. I don't think boomers have as much trauma as people are saying, or that there's a level of healing that needs to happen as we think that needs to happen. I go back to my previous comment, is many of them don't have language or the capacity that we have. A lot of them grew up in the Great Depression. They grew up in World War I, World War II. A lot of them, if we're going to talk, can we talk about the Black community? You have parents who had no autonomy over their bodies. You have baby boomers who were not allowed to have birth control if their spouse did not sign for it. You as a millennial or you as a Gen Z can't fathom that I have to ask permission from my husband to get birth control. I didn't want to have these 8 kids, but because my husband didn't want to have a vasectomy, and because my husband would not let me have birth control, I have all these kids. So a lot of it is not necessarily trauma. A lot of it is we have a perspective and access to things that they never did. And from their vantage point, relationships look differently. They came from a time where survival drove relationships, not emotion. And so based upon survival, I don't have time to deal with how I'm feeling. If you notice, postpartum depression was something that became popular to talk about in the 90s. But I know for a fact my mother dealt with it. My mother's in her 70s. So I know for a fact my mom went through postpartum depression after she had me, but there was no language for that. And so a lot of them just don't have language. And so we're looking at, can we have a two-way conversation and have a two-way? It was unheard of in the 40s for a 70-year-old to look at a 20-year-old as a peer. And I think we're asking, and it's not unreasonable. So to want relationships is not unreasonable. But we also have to have a level of compassion and capacity for their lack of compassion and capacity in order for us to build the bridge to have relationships. And I'll bring it home. My father is 70. He would have been 75 this year. And there was a lot of hurt that happened when I was younger. But his generation, because they went through the civil rights movement, they went through Jim Crow, they went through voters' rights, they went through all these other traumatic events, that as a people, they did not have space to deal with emotionally. And so how they dealt with things, they just compartmentalized and pushed it down. And I wanted, as my Gen X self, wanted to have a conversation to Dad, we need to repair our relationship. We need to talk about it. His thing was, there's nothing to talk about, babe. I'm sorry. Can we just move forward? And he didn't understand what closure was. He didn't understand all those other things. I had to make a decision within me, not telling y'all to do it. I had to accept that this man does not have language. He does not have capacity. And the more I push against that wall to try to get that, I'm not going to get that. I have to accept him for who he is and salvage these last few years of life in order to have something tangible. And I'm glad I did that piece. Now, am I telling you to suck it up and let people mistreat you? I am not. But I do believe that we need to accept where people's capacity is and give them grace there, and to see how can I develop relationships where they are, but I will not allow you to be toxic with me and abuse me either. And so we have to find that balance within ourselves of what we can accept. But I think a lot of us are wanting something that some people have no capacity. And I'm not talking about people who refuse to do the work. They just have no capacity to be able to do it. Does that make sense? And hopefully I'm not making it seem like I'm trying to defend one over the other. It's just sometimes people just do not have capacity. And we have to determine within ourselves how much of us do we want to give and invest, and at all costs protect ourselves in the midst of all of that as well.
I definitely think that was good. I think
I'm sorry, excuse me guys, I gotta go.
Okay, we're closing out anyway.
Go for a second.
Love you, Blair.
We closing. Thanks, Blair. I love you. So I'm really appreciative of this conversation on tonight, because it definitely gave me, I'm enlightened in a lot of ways. Some of the things that Nakia talked about, on this last point, I've seen a lot in my mother, and even some things in me where I said I wouldn't be like her. I tried my best to do something different. That learned behavior definitely shows itself up at some point. I am one who knew I needed therapy. I started seeing a therapist about 22 years ago. It was necessary for me to operate in the sane mind, just living, coming up in the way that we lived, and to be better for my children, I knew I needed therapy. There are times now, I've had the same therapist for the longest time. There are times now I have to call a therapist and say, this is not a great day. I think most of our family members, especially those that come up in church, feel like, especially if you're older and came up in church, you felt like you were disappointing Jesus if you went to therapy. And so I just want to speak to my generation. If that's what you need to do, you need to. Jesus is not concerned about you going to therapy. He would rather you have a clear mind so that he can have a real conversation with you, because sometimes our conversations are not realistic. And so I'm just very thankful to each one of you. I feel like this conversation could not have been had the way it has been had, and we could not have gotten so much without these particular individuals. I was hoping when I put my post on Facebook that I needed a Gen Xer, that Nakia, you would respond, and you were the first. And I was like, thank you, God, because I needed people to have a conversation that, one, would be respectful, two, would be more than just enlightening, but would be teaching moments. Because there's some things that you all gave today, perspectives that other generations have not thought of. To be able to hear, you may think Christian is a kid because he's just 21. He's a whole adult. If he was not, if we were to have a draft thing still going on, he could be drafted. But to hear how well he articulates at 21, if we take the time to sit and listen to the younger generations, we would be so rich. We would be so rich. We would be thankful to the Gen Xers for giving language in the places that we didn't have it, or just being able to explain some things that we don't even have the energy, because it brings back such traumatic things that have happened. We will be really grateful to the millennials, and we wouldn't I've never looked at the millennials. Well, let me not tell that lie. I haven't always looked at the millennials or the Gen Zers as being disrespectful. I've never thought either of them were disrespectful. Some millennials, I got to pull them in and say, you don't have to say it like that. You can say it. You just don't have to say it like that. But when it comes to the Gen Zers, just even being in classes with them, the way they articulate, the respect that they give is amazing. We can be so much richer, guys, if we begin to just listen to one another. Let's just hear each other out. Let's really walk in love. Let's have a heart posture of love, and run everything you do and everything you want to say through that love. That's what Jesus does. God does nothing. He doesn't even rebuke us without first running it through his love. And that's how we get grace. That's how we get mercy. And I can't wait for another conversation like this. Thank you, guys. Did any of you have anything we wanted to say before? Because I'm done. I love you. I pray God's richest blessings on you. You have blessed the people. Now I'm going to bless you. Bye. Oh, wait. I got something. Hold on. I'm going to need y'all. Hold on. Wait a minute. I need you all. Prayer Intensive 2020. I need you guys to be there. Nakia Shai is one of our speakers. Shar is one of our prophetic intercessors. You have not prayed. You have not even heard prayer until you hear it through a prophetic intercessor. And so I definitely want you guys to be there for that, and know that we're going to have an amazing time. All right. October 29th through the 30th. We still have seats left, and we are watching CNN and all the other news to know how we need to go forward, and what capacity we need to be at. But it's going to be a great move. It's going to be some great teaching. Some of you were loving Chris Vickers' comments.
Yes.
He's one of our facilitators as well. Apostle Aaron J. Mobley is going to be with us. We have the good Dr. Kendra Carr, and we have Apostle Michelle Harding coming as well. It's going to be amazing teaching. One day full of teaching. You're probably going to leave with a headache because it's going to be so much good teaching that are going to run right after the other. We're going to feed you breakfast. Well, we can have a continental breakfast. We're going to feed you lunch. And we just want you to have an amazing, amazing time with us. We're going to host you well here in Philly. Have a great evening. I'm going to say like I always do. No matter what the day holds, we serve the God who holds the day. Be abundantly blessed. I love you guys.